Good afternoon, Dr. Kamandan.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Perfect.
Yes, welcome back. We're looking at episode 2, the Cyber Ninjas. You know,
Exactly.
ninjas, it reminds me of Chinese movies that I grew up watching, jumping walls and wearing all black. Okay,
Interesting.
mm, let's give you, let's leave everything to you to tell us how do we become ninjas. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you for the opportunity. And I would maybe say to our listeners or viewers, for today's session, of course, we're just going to keep it basic as we are trying to do with this series so that at least we have an encompassing discussion around some of these aspects. Specifically, our main topic on the table is cybersecurity. And we might come maybe from each episode to the other episode, maybe targeting a certain specific audience, but all the same, we are saying can we just have a discussion that we could even take to the tables and still have maybe one conversation at the end of the day? So pretty much in terms of our episode for this month or our episode 2, we are focusing on the cyber ninjas, and I'll quickly explain briefly why we really call them the cyber ninjas. So the session that we're just going to try and answer normally the four honest questions: the why, the what, the who, the how of cybersecurity, but specifically focusing on the cyber ninjas. Do not feel excluded if you happen not to fall into this category, because we said we are targeting from grade 8 upwards. So university going, etc, they fall into that category. I'm considering these to be your typical tech savvy users, your typical social media active users. So they fall into that category. They are the ones that knows the ins and the outs of some of the technologies here. Sometimes when you get stuck, this is normally the type of user group that you can easily jump to, and they know some of the tricks that we don't know when it comes to the internet. Most of them actually grew in the internet era. Some of us are like visitors when it comes to that. So in the next maybe 15 minutes or less, this is what we're just going to be focusing on. But before we do that, so that at least you are working with us in this series, we'll just do a quick recap of the first episode. I would simply say from the first episode, we are mostly targeting the grassroots, where we are trying to go back to the very basics and say, you know what is cybersecurity? Defining it from a very basic level, of which we're simply saying it's all to do with identifying that we have data that needs to be secured. You as a person, you are all about the data. Your name, everything that identifies you is the data that needs to be secured. And that doesn't really change, whether we talk it at a cyber ninja level as we are doing today, or we talk it at a corporate level. That still remains the discussion around cybersecurity. And of course, we might be touching or extending that discussion on data security to other areas that revolves around the use of some of the devices as it also interacts with that data in a sense. So let's jump right into the first question. That is, why cybersecurity? So I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who is always sometimes with technology, and we have found ourselves maybe in that kind of a setup in a sense. If you look at what COVID forced us to be in a kind of a scenario, it's all about technology at the end of the day. Personal, school, work, we just with technology all the way through. Some saying for actually making it lighter, we wake up and we sleep with technology. So this is where we are finding ourselves in, especially looking at what's happening around us. But if we go back to the building blocks, which is the main message we want to leave our listeners today with, why cybersecurity? There is a very basic framework that I would say, if we can at least understand and appreciate, it's not very new. At corporate level, they go into more details and depth describing the CIA triad, where we're simply saying, look at your data. We are all concerned about making sure that it's confidential, it maintains its integrity, and is available. So let's just unpack those three aspects. So when we are saying, when we are focusing on cybersecurity, we are focusing on confidentiality. We are saying your data is not accessible to unauthorized users. So those that have the rights to have access to that data are the ones that are supposed to be having access to that data. So that's the first part in terms of the model that we normally focus on when it comes to cybersecurity. Then when it comes to the integrity, we are simply saying, if, let's say, I would want to maybe give an example around the banks to say, if a transaction is occurred where, let's say, you have sent your friend 500 rands, if that transaction is manipulated along the path of being sent to the other end, whether it's in a banking system, and all of a sudden maybe there's a 50 rand instead of a 500 rands, obviously there is loss of the integrity of that data, because the original message was 500 rands that was transacted. But then if you're going to be having 50 rand as what is being received on the other end. So in simple terms, we are saying, let's maintain the form or the format which the data has been sent, and we are assured that it has not been tampered around with, and we can trust whatever that data is representing. Then when it comes to the availability, this is where we are saying, whatever channel you're using to make sure that your data maybe is sent from one end to the other end, it's available in that format. Or even yourself, when you want to access, let's say, your bank balance, you would have you don't need to panic to say, I'm trying to access my maybe my bank app, it's not available. So we are saying, whenever you need to have access to your data, wherever it's stored, it's actually available. There isn't any hindrance for you to be accessing that data. I think with this maybe kind of a background, let's take the next question and see how this build back together in terms of why cybersecurity. If you can keep these three, it's all about confidentiality, it's all about integrity, it's all about availability, then we would have actually passed our message for today in a more precise way. I would say the word of cybersecurity, as we try to relate or link it back to the three aspects that I mentioned on confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The most important aspect around what of cybersecurity, it's all to do with you and your personal data as a savvy user. Like in today, we are discussing of you cyber ninjas. It's all about the digital footprint. Whatever you do on the internet, and I keep on repeating the same statement, the internet never forgets. So anything that you do, in as much as you think you have deleted, you have no idea where it's stored, if especially it's in the cloud. And this is where we end up hearing such conversations to say the internet does not have a delete button. As such, when it comes to the digital footprint, there is that digital twin that you are creating as a result of the various interactions you are doing while it's online, whether you visit a certain website, whether you have your favorite YouTube channel that you keep on watching. With AI and all these emerging technologies that are now being advanced to try and look at all that activity that you are doing online, they're able to give a profile which is almost a true replica of who you are online. So in essence, this is where we talk of the digital twin. There is you, the physical, there is you, the digital. And that digital twin, if you don't take precaution to protect whatever information is being built to create that profile, And this is where you would find something that you did as a teenager is going to haunt you. It was maybe that party when you just was in the mood of celebrating, have maybe finished your matric, etc. When you are going for a job interview, that picture just pops up from social media some 5 years, 10 years, 15 years back. This is some of the things that you would find. So when it comes to the cybersecurity part of it, we are saying, do you have an idea where the data that is being collected all over the internet, where is it going to? How is it being used to build your profile? Be it from the social media platforms, etc. Which is why you also have to be careful in terms of how you behave when you're online, because it's just one click of a button, and the rest of the world has even a way of profiling you in a certain, or seeing you in a certain kind of light of some sense. Then you're also looking at what are the devices that you're using to be in a position to access some of those services online, etc. So that's all to do with how do you make sure that you maintain the confidentiality, you maintain the availability, the integrity of the information that is being available in as far as you are concerned. And when it comes also even to your actions, this is where sometimes you invite something that you didn't want, and you end up having your profile being distorted simply because you visited a certain link that end up being part and parcel of the profile that is being built for you. So we have to also take that into account. We may feel like we have no start or stop when it comes to the internet, because there are no controls, there are no signs like stop or any harm to actually give a bit of some control in a sense. But you as an individual, you need to be watching and checking that, because they are the same actions that are going to be used by someone who is targeting you as an attacker, because they are just tracking your footprints in a sense. This is why I would say everything goes back, whether it's for social media, and this is where when they try to use social engineering, they're just following your digital footprints. Wherever you've walked through, they're just following the same digital footprints as well. And as you normally like to call it, the cyber ninjas, the TMI, too much information, you are oversharing, you expose a lot about yourselves, sometimes which is not necessary, as we normally would want to do in the physical world, to say we have to protect the information. What is private, let it be private as much as you can. That way you are able at least to maintain and minimize some of the cybersecurity risks in a sense. Just to wrap it up, of course, I'll just put a disclaimer to say, if you see these figures, they are not maybe informed from a research. This is just a personal representation of what I would maybe call a visual understanding of what I'll say when it comes to who is involved in the whole cybersecurity equation. I would say you hold the largest share. I could even go on to say I would represent you as a 90%, because everything that I was talking about in the previous slide, when I was talking about the what of cybersecurity, the digital footprint, etc., that all revolves around you. And of course, we may have the devices that you are using. Be careful if they are secure. Do they have the necessary security that is supposed to be on those devices, be it antiviruses, be it password protected, so that they actually maintain the confidentiality, the availability, and the integrity of the data. Then, in terms of the internet, you might not have much control, but you have the control of you as the person, because we are simply saying the internet is this kind of a platform where initially the original maybe premise for the internet was just to enable sharing of information from point A to point B. Security was never maybe the main part of the whole concept on the internet. This is why we keep on having security being one of the issues, and that's why cybersecurity keeps on evolving and revolving as one of the biggest issues as well. Then we have other people. How you connect and link up with your networks, be it on social media platforms and all that, sometimes also ties back to you, which is why we are saying you are not an island. you have people around you, and thus sometimes whatever action you do, also bear in mind that can also affect those people in your network, be it your social networks or whatever network that you have created that is online and available. So you are not just doing whatever you do when you are in those closed doors as a cyber ninja, thinking that it's all about you. I could have loved to go and cite some case studies where, if we take, for example, what the ransomware did at a certain hospital in Germany, where one patient lost a life, you might have, we could actually maybe trail back and track it back to say there was just a naive, maybe teenager who was actually in their closed door, just clicking one or two maybe links that were popping up on their device. And the next thing, a certain link that is linked to that teenager caused a loss of life. So we have to bear in mind, whatever we are doing, we are not alone. We are connected. We are in that global village. So we have to be careful. As I wrap up, I'm just going to say, when it comes to the how part, I would want you to go back to look at what I started off highlighting from the very beginning: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. If you take your device, can you check if it's able to provide the confidentiality that's needed to the data? Is it able to provide the integrity that is it not going to make any changes to the data that you're having? Is it going to ensure that you have the available information that you want in its original format as much as is possible? So safety is one of the most important key aspects that you need to be looking at, and you need to be also, as much as is possible, protect your intellectual property and the data. I would say, when it comes to intellectual property, all the ideas you have, most of the times you have notes on your phones, and you normally trust that your phone is keeping those notes as secure as is possible. If someone steals that idea, maybe it was an idea that you wanted to publish, it was a song that you were in the process of writing, obviously that is really going to be not much of a welcome development in as far as you might be concerned. So, which is why, when it comes to the how of cybersecurity, let's focus on, are we for really considering the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability? So if you want to summarize everything we're saying today, we're simply talking about the CIA: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's like a three-legged stool. When you have one of the legs cut off, you don't have a balanced kind of recipe in terms of your cybersecurity. As a cyber ninja, I'm simply saying, my message to you today: consider confidentiality, integrity, and availability as your guiding and building blocks to make sure whatever it is you're doing, or whichever device you're using, or whoever you're interacting with, you still have these contained and maintained in a more precise way. I think we can end this session here, but to also remind you, we have in the series episode 3, where we are going to focus on the home network, that is in the month of April. We'll preferably maybe work with the first week, every first Tuesday of every month, like the first Tuesday of April and the first Tuesday of May, we'll be having our episode 4, and the first Tuesday of June, we'll be having our corporate episode 5. I think with this, I'm handing over to SM.
Yeah. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, doc. If you permit me, thank you, Dr. AMG.
You have my permission.
Thank you, Dr. AMG. I must say, Liu, in a very short space of time, we are learning the most important building blocks of how a person must secure his environment. You know, the CIA acronym, it's very
Yes.
important. It's very important, as you've indicated. confidentiality, and if we make reference to confidentiality and use confidentiality at the same time as oversharing, what
Mhm.
would you say about the people that will share on Twitter, they will share on Facebook, they will share on Instagram every move they take. I'm at the airport now, I'm boarding. I'm at the airport, I've just landed. I'm at the restaurant now, I'm sitting with A, B, C, D, E. Uh,
Mhm.
so where is the risk on at that level?
Obviously, in terms of your first line of defense, in terms of you having your data protected, like where you are and what you are doing, it's very easy to tell what kind of state you are in, and it's going to be even easy for those that are going to do some social engineering, for example, because you have already told them, you have made their first part of the process of attacking you or actually hacking you very easy, because one, they're just going to drop an email, which when you arrive at your destination, it's going to relate to the information that you're actually telling them. To say, okay, fine. They will just even drop in a very simple email to say, no, I met you at the airport. Maybe you were in a bit of a rush and we chatted. Can we just take this conversation to the next level? Because you have been indicating you are with who and who, and they will just impersonate that person that you said you were with at the airport, and without thinking about it, you're already maybe in conversation with the person, thinking is the person you were with at the airport. That's one maybe dimension if you're looking at it. And the other dimension, if you're looking at it, with all that information that you are freely giving, which when it comes, let's say, even to the dark web, where they are gathering that information and they will be selling it, because it's every information about you, it's money in the dark web, and you are providing it for free without so much effort.
Mhm.
So it's that danger that you are putting yourself in. It's that danger that you are putting everybody who is linked up to you in. So which is why I was emphasizing, do not just think about you alone, also think about the other people that are connected to you.
So what are we saying to the youngsters that are still at school going age where they take pictures? I know you've highlighted that whatever you do today, you'll have to you'll have to face it later in life. So what are we
Certainly.
doing? What are we saying to the youngsters at high school or pre-high school in terms of confidentiality? How must they go about handling themselves in protecting the data that is personal, the way you're putting it, and putting it out there?
That's a good question, Sonabo. Precisely, if I'm looking at it for the youngsters we are having, who are almost always, I would say, maybe even at loggerheads or in competition to try and say I've posted the most exquisite pose of myself, or I'm the one who is very much trending these days in a sense. So you'd want to be very careful in that sense, because the moment we divorce the internet from the real or physical world, we are losing the whole concept around it. Just ask yourself, would you post this picture if it was in the physical world, to say because the internet is just like a war where everybody is able to actually just look. So consider that war and say, was I going to just post this picture? Because sometimes when you're doing that, you're not thinking about who is going to be having access. Just imagine it's just an open billboard where everybody can see. Would you do that? If you ask that question, if you're a teenager, and if your answer is no, the next thing you have to do as an action, please don't. Be selective, even in terms of the pictures that you are posting. That's number one. And number two, there is also the danger to think I can always delete it if maybe it doesn't come
Mm,
out right or so. Like we say that the internet doesn't have a delete button. You think you've deleted from your
mm,
own personal computer, but the cloud server, which is storing that Facebook account of yours, you don't know where it's residing. You don't know if they have actually lost that picture. They have a backup of a backup. Are you going to
mm.
follow that backup of a backup? How do you do that? So you have to be really very much careful around that. So I would say to the teenagers, we normally say stop, think before you actually can post anything on the internet. And that's one of the most safest options that you would actually be having. And ask yourself, would you do the same if it was just an open war that you just posting that picture, posting that comment? This is where sometimes when you're even doing some bullying to other teenagers, you think it's only you. That same statement that you're bullying is one that's going to pop up when you're having an interview at one of those large organizations. I said, so you're a bully. So it harms
Mm.
you. So they just have to be on the alert when it comes to every action that you have on the internet has consequences eventually.
No, thank you, Dr. Kamundani. I think in wrapping up and closing, individuals must always think about CIA. If
I
you
would
think
summarize that way myself. Seriously,
if a
yes.
person thinks CIA, then a person is taken the first step in protecting his or her immediate environment and other people's environments.
Certainly, certainly.
On that note, we must say thank you very much again for being here. We always look forward to your sessions. We are looking forward to the April session. Thank you very much. Highly appreciate. And
No, the
thank
honor
you.
is mine. I'm
Yes,
very much grateful for the opportunity to be interacting with our audience, and we'll try by all means to make sure that our conversations are as basic as is possible, so that at least we can extend these conversations on our tables wherever we are, so that at least we can help each other to be aware in terms of how we can advance some of these cybersecurity practices, best practices, protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, protect our environments. In a sense, it's all about making sure that our data is CIA compliant, if I'll put it across that way. And with this from my side, see you in our next episode in April.
thank you. Thank you very much to people who've troubled themselves, who've made time to sit and watch or tune in. We always strive to bring content that is of value to the listeners. We hope we've made a difference to you and your immediate uh, community or people that you may share this information with. This video is going to be on YouTube and on Facebook permanently there, as Dr. AMG has indicated that in the internet you delete nothing. It's there for life. We will Let's love you and leave you. Thank you very much from Paita. We thank you. God bless. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Bye, Doctor.